Hi, this is the May edition of Impactful Ink, and this month we read,
Perks of Being a Wallflower.
to start off, The Perks of Being a Wallflower is about a boy named Charlie who lives in the Pittsburgh area of Pennsylvania. He's a freshman, or he's about to start his freshman year when we first meet him, and he just his best friend just committed suicide, so he needs someone to talk to. So the entire book is told through letters sent to an anonymous person.
Mm-hmm. Charlie, right from the beginning, you can tell that he's very different. He's not your normal ninth grader. He's really introspective. Draws a lot of conclusions I don't think I would have in ninth grade, and I think a lot of it has to do with him being a wallflower, which he's called that once he meets a group of friends that are seniors in
his school.
Yeah, in his school.
And they are really kind of weird. I guess you should say, like, weird in the high school sense. Like, obviously they're going to be really cool people later, and they're cool now, but they're obviously like on the fringes of high school popularity.
Yeah, they're the people who are into the artsy films and do the things that you want to do when you go to college, but they do it earlier than all of us, so...
Yeah, or than us. In particular, the two of us.
They weren't cool.
The Perks of Being a Wallflower is this coming-of-age novel, but it also is about many different social issues, obviously, which we would like to talk about.
Yay.
So domestic violence comes up as well. His sister is hit.
It's portrayed that she kind of egged him on to do it, and she didn't want him to hit her, but
right, and obviously no one
should hit anyone, but the scene was put in such a way that it looked like that, like.
And also,
sorry,
I think the way that the book approaches people, I feel is very interesting, in that everyone is very much a shade of gray instead of black and white. And whenever we think of domestic violence victims, they're always kind of portrayed as helpless with very little agency, and whereas domestic violence attackers or perpetrators are always considered like very, very bad, because obviously, like, why would you hit someone you love? And I mean, that is still true. Why would you hit someone you love? But the way that the only experience that we see firsthand is the one between Charlie and his sister, or between his sister and her boyfriend, and
Charlie's teacher says in the book, and it's really popular. I think in the movie it was one of the most. It was like a central theme almost for the movie. It was, we accept the love that we think we deserve. It's offered to Charlie as an explanation to him when he tells his teacher about his sister being hit by her boyfriend. And I found it very insightful, because you always wonder why people are in dysfunctional relationships, whether it's your friends or your family.
Yeah.
Whatever, even the relationship you have with yourself, it has everything to do with how you think of yourself.
It's a very simple way of putting, when I was growing up, there were, like, I was always reading about, I don't really remember, but the point was, like, a common theme in what I was reading was that, like, you have to love yourself first in order to get love, and I think it was, like, a very simple way of putting that, and much less sappy.
Yeah. It was probably the most elegant way of putting
that thought.
Yeah. I think Oprah should have quoted that really much more. She would have gotten way more respect.
You love Oprah and respect her.
I do, but not Oprah.
But I do feel like that there's something to be said in the fact there are several characters who struggle with domestic violence, and it's I mean the way, like, as I said, this is not something that I have struggled with firsthand, but the way that we're led to believe is that it's like a relatively uncommon occurrence.
Mm-hmm.
And here we have like half of the couples who struggle with domestic violence, and so I guess part of that is the fact that it is more common than we're led to believe on the outside.
Yeah.
When I read this book, I found it interesting. When we look at Charlie's parents, for example, they're doing pretty well for themselves. They own their own home. I guess I don't know. They don't really talk about that, but they. His mother, I don't believe, works. His father works a 9-to-5 job, but neither of them finished college.
Mm-hmm.
They're both able to send their children to college, even if they aren't necessarily the ones paying for it.
Yeah.
It's
almost assumed that their kids are gonna go to
Right.
college. It wasn't like they were trying to decide if they could afford it or anything. It was just gonna happen, despite them not going.
And I feel like reading this book takes place in the early 90s, so 91, and it was written, I want to say, in 98. I don't know, I can't find it, but it feels almost like a completely different time period. 99. Obviously, like, to an extent, it is a period piece about the 90s, but also it just feels very far away. Like, I can't imagine graduating now. I can't imagine most people graduating now from high school and then being in a place to have a solid 9-to-5 job where you can afford your own home.
Yeah, and then raise your own family and have kids on that salary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It almost feels like there's like a breakdown of the American dream that has happened. And we've talked about this a lot on the website. We've written quite a number of posts about it. But it's just kind of interesting to see the difference among the generations.
Prevalent in the book is drug culture, and all the kids seem to be doing it. I missed out on this in high school. Like, that was not there. But I guess in the 90s, and this subset that Charlie is a part of, these seniors and upperclassmen that are the outcasts. So they're not outcasts. I think they're too cool for everybody else. There are kids who get into good colleges, some of them, and some of them are very.
Most of them. I think all of them go off to college. Like Divya said, when we were in high school, we were not doing much. We were going to school and like going home, and the only exposure that I had to drugs when I was in high school was just like public service announcements and those movies that they show you about like not using heroin. And basically like the message of all of these movies is don't do drugs because it will ruin your life. And then you have these kids in this book who are like doing drugs and like doing really great things with their lives, and you're.
Yeah. I mean it's like obviously the drug war failed in that sense. And I'm not going to say that it worked for me because no one offered me anything. So I was never offered anything ever. So
but I think it's also very true to the way peer pressure is, because the way that I was told peer pressure would work was that someone would be smoking something or whatever, and they would be like, here, try it or we won't be friends with you anymore. And in real life, it's more like everyone else just happens to be doing it, and then it's like, do you decide that you're going to have their level of fun? Or are you going to have your level of fun in the same proximity? So...
Yeah, peer pressure is not... I think they really did an inaccurate description. Yeah.
The way that they taught it to us. But this is much more accurate. Mm-hmm. I feel, again, like, this is another one of those things that's just handled matter-of-factly. Mm-hmm. Like, drugs happen. I guess sometimes it ruins it depends on your level of drug usage. I don't really know. But anyway, it can ruin your life. It cannot. And I guess that was basically...
Yeah.
Okay, so obviously molestation is a huge deal in this book. At the end, we find out that Charlie had. Sorry. Okay, so at the end, we find out that Charlie has been molested by his Aunt Helen, who was in turn molested by a family friend.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah.
And Sam was also molested as well. So again, this is, I feel, one of those things too, like with domestic violence, we're taught to believe that it doesn't happen all that often, but obviously it happens more often than we give it credit.
Yeah, and
credit. Sorry, that's not great.
Yeah,
that wasn't a great term to use in this situation.
I think more often than we think. So yeah. And with Aunt Helen, I was really shocked at the end because Charlie, in all his letters, he talks about how much he misses his Aunt Helen and how he really doesn't like his birthday because that's the day she died. That's like the day before Christmas, Christmas Eve, and how he's just so attached to her. And at the end, when you find out that she had in fact molested him on many occasions, I think like it was like every Saturday night. Yeah, and you would expect him to be really angry about it because he's now part of this cycle where she was molested and no one believed her at the time.
The fact that we're conditioned to believe that child molesters are child molesters, and they're monsters and horrible, and they don't deserve any pity or compassion because how can you take this away from a child? And so I think that it's almost refreshing to just see the fact that it's
like the why of it.
It's yeah. But I also think that
that doesn't take responsibility away from child molesters, but it
which I think is good because obviously we all know that, or we've all been told that people who have been molested are more likely to molest. But we also know that not everyone who has been molested goes on to molest.
Yeah.
So I think we this is a sad ending, but we're also left with a feeling of hope. Like you don't leave the book thinking that like Charlie is going to go out and like molest his nephew.
Definitely not. It was actually a really positive message for such so many tragic events and so many sad things happening throughout the book. At the end, Charlie ends it with, this is my last letter to you. Let's just assume that I'm okay and you're okay because we really are.
And that if I'm not now, I will be soon.
So that was a great book, Perks of Being a Wallflower. And next month, we're going to be, June, we're going to be reading the third book from Khaled Hosseini, And the Mountains Echoed. I'm really excited about this book because I'm excited about all the books I read. I'm excited about this book because he wrote Kite Runner and A Thousand Splendid Suns, and I loved reading both of those books. This one, read with us, because actually I think it's fairly new, so it's going to be a really great exploration of parent-child relationships and kind of what people who have power and money can do to the people that don't. Like how can you make their life less miserable? How do you have that choice?
Yeah.
So all sorts of things.
Which is I feel very in tune with the website.
Yes, this is
because I think all of us make a decision about who is worthy of our help. And so this is supposed to cover that. And also, it's a lot more international in scope than the books that we have read before for this.
Yeah, where does this take place?
It takes place in Afghanistan and also I think in France as well.
Yeah.
And so, like, most of the books that we have read have been limited to one particular setting.
So, yeah.
So we're excited!
Yay!
So please read with us. We'll see you next month.